Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy. Today we have an incredible guest who is really an expert in motherhood, all things motherhood. So she, her own words, she says she's the embodied motherhood expert, pleasurable parenting strategist. So when I heard these titles, I was like, I'm so intrigued about what this means. So we're going to get into it today. She's a vocal activator, global connector, and a whole life alignment mentor. So when you think about all the things that are important involved in that, that's really what we're doing. And so go for it. Go ahead and just let us know a little bit more about you, how you got all these titles and what you've done to really make them into a passion or a legacy.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Caryn Terres, and he already said all the wonderful titles, and titles are just fun. For me, it's like I wear a crown sometimes, and that makes me Empress Caryn, or I'll wear a cape, and that makes me Superhero Caryn. I just like to really have fun and imagination just because I am with kids all day. I homeschool 3 children on top of running 2 businesses, on top of being a part of the community and all this other stuff. Really like super mom, that mom that you see on the sitcoms that everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't be like that. I'm like, but her life looks really awesome. I'm not going to freak out and be like perfectionist, make sure there's white glove test in my house. But besides that, sitcoms moms, they kind of have a really fun life. So I was one time, like when I was freaking out, I can't be June Beaver, I just had this idea of like, but what if I could? Like, what if that was actually possible to have it that together? And that all came really from the fact that I had my last baby unassisted. So she was born 15 minutes before the midwife got there. And I just had this moment of like, okay, well, if I can do that, I can do anything. If I can birth a baby when there's no one around except for my husband and my photographer, then why not? Like, why not go make $1 million? Why not go be a senator? Why not go do all these really big things that I kind of joke about with my friends, but never actually thought were possible? I also didn't ever think it was going to be possible for me to birth a baby totally on my own, and then the midwife come in 15 minutes later like, good job, you did it, congratulations. So that was kind of where like my self-help journey started, was with her, because I really felt like I need to show up for this baby. She's my last baby. She's my only girl. All of a sudden, all these really big floods of big dreams started coming in, and I had no idea where to start, because prior to that, like my oldest was born literally the day that Lehman Marcus filed for bankruptcy. The Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy in 2008. He was literally born on that exact same day. So I was holding a 1-day-old baby, and I was 20 years old. He was a surprise pregnancy. So I'm like 20 years old, have no idea about the housing market, had no, like, some people are like, oh, we knew that it was coming. I was like, I'm glad that you like 30, 40-year-olds had an idea that it was coming. I was 20, I was in massage therapy school. I had zero clue that this housing market thing was going to happen. And then nobody wanted to rent to us. So now we're living with my parents with a baby and have no idea who's going to rent to us, nothing. And I kind of just handed my kid over to my mom. Like, here, I still have to finish school. Here, I got to do all this. I've got to work to buy formula and all these things because the housing market's so bad. And I've got to do all these, like, it wasn't fun being just out of college during that time, because everyone who had an established job, they're kind of getting put in front of you. Like, oh, renters, they're going towards those 30, 40-year-olds that maybe lost their house, but at least they can for sure pay rent. I was a massage therapist making $40 an hour, maybe, like, and sitting around like really bored a lot of the times, because what are they doing? They're cutting out massages. That's a frivolous thing during a recession. So that was a big thing. And then we finally kind of got on top of it. And then my second child, I had him at home. He was a home birth, but with my midwife and with my doula and like everyone around me. So I gave them a lot of that credit. Like, if it wasn't for my midwife being here, then I wouldn't have been able to do it. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for this. And I wasn't owning that I birthed that baby. That was me, not my husband, not my midwife. That was me. But I gave them all that credit, and he was such a hard baby. he was so needy, like literally attached to me nonstop, needed to be held in a baby carrier. If I put him down, he would scream. He slept on top of me for like 18 months, pretty much, like co-sleeping. If I left to go to the grocery store, I'd come home and my husband would be like, he's been screaming the whole time, like literally since you left, and now he's stopped because you walked in the door. So that was my second baby. And then I found out I was pregnant with my third when he was 18 months old. And I was just like, okay. And I went into a pretty deep, like, pregnancy depression, just so overwhelmed, because now my parents have moved out. We bought their house. We're finally like in a good, stable spot. And then surprise, baby number 3 is coming. So my first and my third were surprised, and my second was the only one that was planned. And the planned one was the most like difficult one to deal with when he was actually outside of me. And so he, like, with him and with Leo, my oldest is Leo, my middle is Alex, I was that everyone used to call me Old Yeller, because I would just yell. Like, I demanded your respect. Like, you listen to me right now. No, you get in the house right this second. Like, very harsh, very on top of it. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy being a suburban housewife the way that I wanted to. Living in Utah, you kind of get told this fairy tale that you're going to get married and you're going to have kids and you're going to be fulfilled and everything's going to be perfect and shiny and rainbows, and somehow little gnomes are going to come out and clean your house. And like, you're not really prepared for motherhood at all. You're just not. Like, I see you laughing over there, but you're not. You have a baby and you're like, there's no manual, and this one's so much different than that one. Oh, and now I'm pregnant, and now I'm pregnant with a girl after having 2 boys. So the hormones were totally different. Everything was different. And then I knew that I was going to have her unassisted. From pretty much as soon as I found out I was pregnant with her, I had a recurring dream where the midwife didn't show up in time, to the point where I like got a doula that lived really close who still didn't even make it in time. And that's when I kind of started learning about the power of thought and the power of like realizing, we kind of did that with Alex's birth too. We thought it was going to snow that day when it had been a really like mild winter. Yeah, it was a blizzard, like straight up blizzard the day he was born. And my husband was afraid he was going to like come out of the pool, which was exactly what happened. He like popped out of the pool and we had to like do some maneuvering. We're like, wait a second, we wanted to buy my parents' house and we did that. We bought that. Are we creating this? Like, is it just our goals? And again, once my daughter was born, I was like, I can't be this mom that yells anymore. I just can't. I can't have this precious little baby girl and be so masculine and so harsh and so angry and like, oh my gosh, I still have 18 years of this. Like, my oldest is 9 at this point. My middle is like 2, and now I have a newborn. I'm like, I can't. For the rest of my, like, another 20 years of this much anger, this much frustration, this much stress, what do I do? And that's when I learned about gratitude and about meditation. And I was very kind of on the surface with it all. And then it just started happening faster and faster. Like, I'd think about something and it would happen. And the negative side of it was true too. I'd think about what would happen if some giant bill came in and then all of a sudden it would happen. I'm like, okay, stop thinking about those giant bills. Or what would happen if my husband could make an extra, 20 grand a year, and then like 2 months later he got a promotion and made an extra 20 grand a year. And I'm like, okay, so this is real. How do I get into it? And then I jumped more into metaphysics, like quantum physics and the metaphysics, and Think and Grow Rich, which is the conference that we met at, and all these ideas where I'm like, okay, what if I could be June Beaver? What if I could be Supermom? What if I could really enjoy wiping a blowout diaper? What if I could really enjoy teaching my kids about the importance of folding the laundry? And that led me to learn more about childhood development. There's an amazing book called No Drama Discipline by Tina Payne Bryson and Dr. Dan Siegel. And it's like neurobiology, neuroscience meets childhood development. And the word discipline comes from the same Latin root word as the word disciple, which means to teach. It's discipline, which it translates to teach. So when you're disciplining your kids, it's not punishment, it's to teach them something. And as soon as that was my motivation for things, Old Yeller left. And this Zen Supermom came in, and I had friends that were like, what? Who is this? I haven't seen you in like 2 months. Are you even the same person? And as those things stopped mattering, like, why do I care? Why am I so upset that X is happening? Oh, because I was taught when I was raised, when my parents didn't have access to the information I have, this is the belief I have. Well, I have science to back up that that's actually BS. So I'm just not going to believe that anymore. And as more things didn't matter in my mental and emotional fields, my physical fields started changing too, to the point where I went from a size 14 to a size 4 in less than a year, without changing my diet, without changing exercising all the time, without any of that, just falling away because the density, things didn't matter. And so that meant that the matter that was stuck to me didn't matter. And it just kind of all continued to be like more confirmation and more confirmation and more confirmation. And when you live your life so in tune that synchronicities become your normal, you don't like, oh, because of this and this, like I used to, oh, this happened and then this happened and this happened and this happened. And I'm just like, of course it happened. That's how my life is. My life does look like a crazy stream of miracles to the outside world. But that's because I've done all of this inner work to be like, yeah, this is how I want my life to be. I want to be considered an empress. What does an empress have? What kind of person, like, how do you show up to be an empress? How do you show up to be supermom? What does that actually look like? And what does that take? And then I just made up all these pretty names because it sounded fun. I'm like, ooh, that sounds pretty. Ooh, that's fun. Ooh, I wonder, how do I get people to care? Like, nobody cares that your life is going good. You know, we're taught that you're not supposed to brag. But I was so sick of going to mom play groups, and all it was whose life was worse. It's a game I made up in my head where I'd be like, oh, I'm wondering, okay, whose line is it anyway? No, whose life is worse? Oh, well, my husband's cheating on me. Oh, you think that's bad? Our house is foreclosing. Oh, you think that's bad? My kid's a drug addict. Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, so what we talk about at our play dates all the time, and you wonder why your life sucks. Like, let's switch it up. But I'm actually having a lot of sex with my husband. I'm actually having a great life. I actually like it that I got to teach my kid about that lying is not a great thing to do and why. And no, I didn't scream at him. And I stopped getting invited to play dates because people didn't want that kind of positivity around. So being all alone, I'd be like, okay, well, if I'm going to be only me and my kids, then I damn well better want to do this and be all in all the time, do my business and be there, be with my kids and be there, do the homeschool thing, be there, be with my husband, be there, and not try to. So many people think supermom is like spinning all the plates at once. It's not. It's just like making sure that this plate's going good enough that you can go all the way around and it's still moving. And then you just kind of give it a little like flip to keep it going. It's not walking around with 15 sticks and all that at once. No, you got a system for every single thing till the point. That's why I call it whole life alignment. It's just like a car. You have to have your whole car working. If pieces of your car don't work, you don't go places. Or it sounds really bad. You hear this like grinding going on or whatever, you know there's something wrong. If your budget is crap, then fix it. Don't just sit there complaining about how you have no money. If your love life is crap and you want to have more sex with your husband or your wife, whatever, like, then do that. Like, don't just sit there complaining about it. That's not changing anything. And when life is good, brag about it. Like, tell people, even if you're just bragging to social media, or even if you're just bragging to like a voice memo on your phone, it's so important to be like, I am so happy and so grateful that my kid went to the bathroom at the park without peeing in her pants. Like, potty training, I'm almost done out of diapers after so many years, and I'm just like so grateful instead of the angry like, oh, you peed in your pants again. Okay, honey, like, let's do it. You just got to switch it in your brain, and then you're like, oh, my life is amazing. How do I teach other people to have an amazing life? Because I want my kids to grow up in a world where we brag and lift each other up, because I think that that's how we get rid of poverty and sickness and all this negative stuff. Because when more people are like, you know, John Shin or Richard Branson or Madonna or all these people who have all this big money, like, they're no different than us. They're literally no different than you and me, except for they decided they were worth taking the effort and to stop complaining. And that's it.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm gonna kind of go over some of these notes that I took while you're going, because I think it's so important. I think because she said it at first, many people might have missed this, but it all starts with the epiphany of, but what if I could, right? There's so many people who never get to that perspective. They never have that epiphany. They never actually get to the point thinking, well, but what if I could, right? Because I think that question in and of itself is yeah, I don't know what the most powerful question to ask yourself in the world would be, but I think that's like on the top 10 of most powerful questions ever to ask yourself is, but what if I could, or something of that variation. What if I did love that person? What if this didn't matter, right? But what if, and living in a land of what if allows you to create the land of what is. And that is, the interesting thing about that is what immediately follows the, but what if I could, is exactly what you said, the imposter syndrome, the thinking, man, do I really belong here? And then all the self-doubt, all the like, not only self-doubt, but other people around you who don't necessarily believe in the what if you could lifestyle. And so then they're questioning all those things. And I think that those two things can, coupled with them, with it, understanding that imposter syndrome is there, but it doesn't have to be there if we live enough in what if we could. And then what she said is, if you, once you learn gratitude, you learn this not manifesting, but visualizing what you want and creating. I think creating is such a better word than manifesting, but
yeah, for sure, it is a better word.
Once you learn creation and you start recognizing the patterns of creation are universal. There's no like, you don't have a different pattern of creation than I have, or like everybody's creation, it all happens the same way. It all happens through visualization, through energy, through the quantum physical realm, the metaphysical, like that's all part of creation. And the thing that a lot of people maybe overlook is that although it takes time, okay, time is relative, but we can say it takes time to where this becomes a natural response to things. It also doesn't take any time at all. I mean, it takes a decision. It takes a determination that this is now how I'm going to be acting. It takes a realization of what is. And once you realize what is, that's going to change everything. I think my wife had our babies, one baby at home, our second baby at home, and one baby in the hospital. And it was definitely a different well, not my whole family. Most of us were born at home. I was born in my grandma's living room. And I mean, there's lots of stories surrounding childbirth in my household. And I just think, like, I don't really love any other way. I think that home birth is the way to go. Anybody who disagrees with that, don't knock until you try it. And any guy who disagrees with it, good luck trying it. So
yeah, my husband used to say it when I first decided it, he literally was like, I'm not doing it. So if that's what you want, then I'll just figure out how to support you. But it's really not my call, because I'm not going to be the one in that process. So wherever you're most comfortable, like you could be in the woods next to a baby deer. I just want to make sure that the baby's healthy. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're like that and you don't think that you have any like choice in the matter.
Yeah, I agree. I was pretty similar. I will say that as supportive as I was of my wife going to the hospital, I think I definitely tried to encourage her to come home. So because that's what I knew. I grew up with childbirth at home, and I'm super comfortable with it. And I think it's actually better for everybody involved. And most of the time, is there horrific circumstances sometimes that go bad? Absolutely, there are in the hospital too. So.
Totally.
It doesn't change anything, but I love this last home birth with our last baby. It was like done like an hour after it was done. Everything was cleaned up. We were in our own bed, in our own house. It was so comfortable. It was just the best. Yeah. So anybody who's contemplating it, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Caryn and say, hey, like, give us some more details about this.
Yeah, I got all the resources.
Have you read Hypno Babies? The Hypno Babies?
Yeah. So I did Hypno Babies with all three of my kids. My oldest was born in a hospital because I was 20. Like, I literally didn't know anything else. And my only plan was, like, as long as I don't have a C-section, I'm okay. So I tried to go without an epidural. I actually had a lot of health problems as a baby myself with hip dysplasia. So it just got to this point where the pain was really, like, my pelvis was actually going to fracture. After the birth, we found 150 microfractures in my pelvis. Yeah. So if I didn't get the epidural, my pelvis would have literally shattered while I was trying to birth. So the epidural relaxed my muscles enough that I could still birth him vaginally, but not have a C-section. But that was like even more motivation because I was in massage therapy school. I wasn't even supposed to have babies. They said that my hips were too bad, like they wouldn't open enough to like carry a baby to
Sure.
term. So the fact that I could already see that work with the massage work, and then after he was born, I continued being a massage therapist. I still, when I hit my lowest point in 2013, it was because we moved back to my parents' house and I was drinking. I was like, I was not in a good spot at all. And the only reason why I didn't literally kill myself was because I was like, I have a baby, like I have a 5-year-old, I have a responsibility. How do I get out of it? I got a good job actually selling Medicare supplement insurance. We were talking about that before. And I had enough money that I didn't feel guilty to spend money on myself now. So every other week I went to my head therapist, and then the other week I went to my massage therapist. And over 6 months, I was able to get out of that really bad depression, get out of a lot of the other things that I was dealing with, fibromyalgia, degenerative arthritis. Like at 20 years old, I had the body of a 75-year-old, which was the other reason why I was so depressed. Like I couldn't even pick up my kid. I couldn't have fun with him. I couldn't play. If we went on a hike, I would be in bed for like 3 days afterwards. So it wasn't even worth putting in the effort to go have fun because I felt like it was like,
Counterproductive.
it was counterproductive.
Jeez.
And then thank God for cannabis, like that came into my life and I was able to mediate all of that. I wasn't no longer on prescription drugs that were like, I would get into my car and not even realize I was driving because of the opioids that I was on for the fibro. And my doctor was really cool and from Arizona and was all like, so if you want to Google fibromyalgia and natural remedies, you know, we can talk about it. Yoga is going to be good. He was like giving me all of the hints, but we were in Utah in the early 2000s, so he couldn't just come out and say it. It's a lot different landscape. But, you know, that's what drove me to be a cannabis activist. It's the reason why I helped so push Prop 2 last year in Utah and be a part of that movement because I saw how it changed my life. And then I was able to take it a step further with all this gratitude where I don't have fibromyalgia. I've literally cured myself. I don't have degenerative arthritis. If you looked at a body scan of me, you'd be like, yep, looks like a normal 31-year-old body, maybe even better than a 31-year-old body. Like, honestly, you had 3 kids. People say that to me all the time. They're like, no, you haven't had 3 children. There's no way. You do not look like someone who's had 3 kids. You must go to the gym all the time. You must do all this. And I'm like, honestly, I stand naked in the mirror every morning and tell myself that I look sexy, and that's what the world now gets to
Me
see.
too. I do the same exercise. My wife laughs at me sometimes. But it's a great exercise. If you ever have like body insecurity, just start standing in front of the mirror, butt naked, and whatever you do to make yourself feel sexy, just tell yourself you're sexy, 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 and it works, man.
It does. It really does. And the
Start
amount of moms, like I've had moms that have done that. They're like, my butt looks bigger. I've been going to the gym for like 2 years to make my butt look bigger, and like 6 months with you, like not even 6 months, 6 weeks with you, and look at this. And I'm like, sometimes I have to be careful, like when I'm opening pictures from clients, because I'm all like, what is gonna happen? Like I know you're my client, and I'm really excited for you, but am I in a spot that's like okay for me to open this tag?
That's funny. Sexting to a whole nother level, huh?
Right, and that's where the embodiment comes in. That's really for me where the embodied motherhood comes in, because that's what June Beaver was, right? She was always like really pretty too. Like it's the whole everything. You want the whole package. So many women, even in this field of personal development, you hear about how they're divorced, or you hear about how like there's always one area of their life that actually isn't as pretty as you want. They've got major health issues, but they're able to go and do all this other stuff. Or like I said, they're in the middle of some nasty, disgusting divorce, or one of their kids, got, something happened to one of their children, and all this stuff where it's almost like, for me, since I really do believe that we create our own reality no matter what, and there are no victims, we're all just co-creating together. I can't decide what your life path is this time. Am I going to do what I can to help those people on the street? Yeah, but for me, it's like, okay, look at the opportunity you have to build yourself up. I'm not going to feel bad for you. I'm going to try to give you resources.
Exactly.
So for me, when it comes to that, like, there's a part of those moms that look like they have it all, that don't actually have it all. That's actually a self-worth piece. They don't feel like they deserve it all, like all. They're going to, oh yeah, it's really common for women once they start growing that they outgrow their husbands. And I'm like, the masculine's job literally is to provide and protect. That's it. That's the only purpose for men. They provide and they protect. The woman does everything else, like creates the baby, creates everything else inside, has to hold it in there and then like let it go. So if you're growing, you're not allowing him to provide the time, you're not giving him time to grow with you. Like it's an adjustment watching your wife go from like totally having no self-confidence and wearing baggy clothes to walking around a conference center with mega billionaires in a crop top being like, hey, how you doing, with no problem. Yeah, that took my husband an adjustment, but never once was I like, oh, you're too slow, you're not, you've been with me this whole time, but now I'm not gonna stick around. And I think that again comes down to women thinking like, I don't deserve this amazing husband too, or he was with the old version of me, how could he get this new version of me? And I honestly think that a lot of men are waiting for their wives to realize how amazing they are. Like, will you please realize that you're gorgeous? Will you please realize that you're brilliant? Will you please realize that you can do all this all, and you don't have to do it all, because I'm here to support you. I'm here to provide what you need. You need a house while you're running a business? Okay, I'll go work. You need this, you need that. Like, what do you need from me, babe? Just tell me what you need. That my husband would do that during labors. What do you need? What do you want me to do? He's really good at taking directions. Okay, I need to push right here. Okay, I'll go get water. What do you? And that's the job. And so again, when women, because I mostly work with moms, obviously, like, claim your Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the mother of Cupid, and so many people forget that. Like, she's still a mom. She's a goddess, and she's gorgeous, and she's all powerful, and she's a mom. So like, why can't that be you?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. So how did you conquer then and overcome all of your naysayers? Because in any process of transition, you're gonna come across naysayers, and I've had some people are like, well, I've just never had naysayers. I'm like, okay,
then you're not going big enough.
Either you're not going big enough, or you're just lying to yourself, which is fine. Like, I think there are some people who have like really supportive surroundings, but even when everybody else around them believes in themselves, because we're in a society where naysaying happens, right? It just happens. Even if nobody's ever told me I can't accomplish something, somebody's told somebody around me that they couldn't accomplish something. So by just association, I hear those naysaying comments in my own head. And whether I love to or not, it's natural human tendency to adopt those things unless we're very, very, very aware of what's going on. And so even if you've never encountered naysayers from somebody else, you probably have naysaying happen in your head. And if you're not aware of the naysaying that's happening in your own head, that's almost a bigger issue than the naysaying that's happening outside of you. But I think it's a process to get yourself away from negative people, but you can't get away from yourself. And so you have to get rid of the naysaying even inside of your own self. So how did you go about, what processes did you use to really accomplish that journey?
Yeah, so my biggest, like I said, I kind of got into the meditation and the gratitude a little bit more woo. Like, I had a tarot reader, and I was like really trying to tap in to universal intelligence and like, how do I get the universe to be on my side instead of feeling like the world's out to get me, or that all these things are happening to me instead of seeing it happening for me as a lesson. And I came across this amazing woman. Her name is Lorna Johnson, and she teaches the philosophies of Carl Jung when it comes to like the shadow conscious, like subconscious thoughts as your shadow and your conscious thoughts as the light. And then she took it one step further and teaches something called super conscious thoughts, which is what she calls the dark. And the dark is more to mean like when the lights are off in a room, all of the stuff in the room still exists, but you just can't see it, right? And the shadow is when like something is blocking the light. So that's, a lot of people are like shadow and dark, they'll use those words synonymously, but I don't. Like, shadow is what your subconscious, what's being blocked, those negative self-beliefs, those negative patterns. The light is your conscious thoughts, what everyone's trying to become enlightened and woke or whatever, that's where they're going. And then the super conscious is like Guillermo Marconi. He had to pull this thought out of the ether, out of the dark, and turn it into, like, turn a little light on in his head. Oh, this is how I create a radio. And then it became a conscious thought. So any thought that's like a brilliant genius thought that then becomes conscious, at least for me, is started out as a super conscious thought, that you had to have that clear channel because you have these brilliant people that have such negative self-worth, such negative beliefs, that the universe could be like literally bombarding them with signs and they will never see it. They will never look up long enough because they're so focused on the negative. They're so focused on the shadow side. They're so not awake. They're just walking around life like, I wake up every morning, I do this. I call it the hamster wheel. For moms, I call it mom bot mode. I think of the Stepford Wives and how they were all like robots, right? That like the fake happy, there's not actually any passion or purpose or anything. They're just going through life, going through the motions. It's like 90% of the planet, right? It's like really 90% of the planet is just going through the motions, waiting until they die. Then you've got 10, maybe 8-9% of the planet that's like trying to get enlightened. They're doing the personal development. They're going to these workshops. They're doing all that stuff. And then there's like 1% of us that's like, what if I'm actually a god? Sacrilege, I know. But like, what if I really am? What if I really could be Madonna's best friend? Like, I'm talking big, ridiculous. Like, you heard me at the conference this weekend. I'm going to make $1 million by the end of the year. Okay, good luck with that. And I'm like, watch. Like, literally watch me do it, even though I have no idea how, because why not? If I can do all of this other stuff, and even if I don't do it, then I'm going to have a whole lot of fun on the way. It's not like I have this deadline. I'm all about pleasure. Like, yeah, you can push on people's pain points all day long. That's how all advertising is done. That's how all marketing is done. Like, everyone is in pain. We get it. Stop pushing on the pain points and like light up those pleasure points. Like, what if I had a chef all the time come and cook for me and I didn't have to worry about meal prep? Well, how do I get that? I have to show up as someone who gets delicious food made for her all the time. And in this space, that means that I get to do that work. I think for me, it was like I use the word manifest, but honestly, that's the thought of creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's action. So I use this acronym DIAL. It's Disciplined, Intuitive, Action, Lifestyle. So discipline, teaching. So again, to teach, for me, it's also like self-worship almost, to the point of like, I get to show up for me this way. I get to show up as the mom who has delicious food, who has the clean house, all of this stuff, as my way to tell the universe, I actually value this. I value having a clean house. I value having, time with my kids. And the more I can show up that way, the more the universe is like, hey, let me provide you a housekeeper. Hey, let me show you this cool meal prep course that's going to cut your meal prep in half every week. Let me, kick you an extra $100,000 through this random book deal or like whatever. Like it's all possible. But when you're just focused on, oh, my house is a mess. Oh, I should be eating healthier. Like you're telling the universe, oh, that's how you like it. You like your house a mess. You like. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, it was really just deciding like, who is this my voice? Is this my choice? Am I the one who's deciding this? Or is this a thought that I've had that society gave me? Did society tell me that I need to have a clean house and therefore I resent the hell out of cleaning my house? Or did I decide that I really value having a clean house and therefore I'm going to put in the intentional action, the intuitive action to clean it, and then get my 11-year-old to help me or whatever it is that needs to be done? I think so many people sit around staring at their vision board and then don't do anything. They're not actually taking that. They're not taking the hit to make the phone call. They're not getting up. I love Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Like, get off your booty and go do something. You want to get thinner, set the alarm for 30 minutes earlier, go on a walk. And then, week into it, start like running a little bit and then running. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, 6 months ago, I couldn't even walk around my block. And now I just did a half marathon. Just getting 1% better every day in whatever area it is you want to improve means it only takes 100 days to get 100% better than where you are right now. 100 days is easy. It's easy. Yeah. It's super easy, but no one thinks about, I want to be a marathon runner right now. How would I even do that? Well, start by putting on your tennis shoes. Start by opening the door.
Yeah, serious. I love that. I think that that's exactly right. When it comes to naysayers, I never heard it put so simply, but I love the process of just question everything. You're no longer
compassionate curiosity. That's what I teach.
yeah.
Compassionately curious. Like, why do I think this way? If I don't like it, then why am I thinking? And so much of it was because that's what my parents did. So much of it was because that's what I should do. And I always talk about how should and shame and shadow start with the same sound. So if I ever catch myself like, what do I need to do today? Like, what am I going to do? If I hear myself say, well, I should do this, then I don't do whatever should is.
right.
Even
Whatever
if it's, I should do the laundry, then I'm like, that's obviously not actually in alignment. That's my societal programming trying to tell me that I really need to like get on a phone call with this mega billionaire that I'm totally terrified to reach out to. Oh, you know what? I should swap the laundry. You know what? I should do this. I should not. If you're saying should, if you're running on should, then you need to start there and reevaluate why you believe that that's what you should be doing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's awesome. So with that, there's literally too much to cover in this short episode. Feel your legacy. This is why I bring people on here, is to kind of just expose you to different people, different mindsets, different beliefs, and really where different levels are. I love things that I've never heard put this way. And this is why I talk to different people, because as I said earlier, I think the natural laws, the principles, they are essentially the same always, and they're never changing. And the question is, what's the best way to explain them in a way that different people understand? And that's why I want to have many successful people on, because people come from different backgrounds with different histories and need something different. Well, this image, of, there's shadows, living in the shadows of limiting beliefs. There's enlightenment, or a level where you can see a lot of things. But even though we see a lot of things, there's still so much that we don't see, even for an enlightened person. So to say, right? You don't know everything at that point. And then that's where I love the idea of like, can you operate in complete darkness? And not darkness in a negative way where you are depressed, but darkness in that you're so confident, you're so knowledgeable about who you are and your individuality, that you don't need the light of somebody else or the light of something else to illuminate you, but you are a light in darkness. And it's just an interesting perspective. And I love that. But Caryn, how do we get a hold of you? Let's say somebody wanted to be coached by you, mentored by you, or wanted to contribute to your $1 million foundation to help you earn $1 million by the end of the year, or whatever it is, right? I mean, she's going to add tons of value and service. And I mean, even just listening to her today, this can change your life if you can apply some of these things. And I know there's way more there, but how do we get a hold of you? Where do we go? What websites, links, social media, where?
Yeah, for sure. So right now my website is under construction, because I'm actually going to be running for Senate in 2022 also. So I'm like literally doing 15 things at once over there. So right now the best place is social media, Instagram and Facebook. I'm literally the only one of me on the whole planet. If you Google my name, I can't tell you what you'll find. You'll find like my sophomore website from college in there too. So the spelling is on the podcast. It's kind of unique, and but that's the best way. On Facebook, I literally have over 150 hours of free Facebook Lives of me just kind of talking and hoping that it resonated with people. You can see the change from like when I started in October of I think the first time I went live was like September of 2017. And then looking at me now, and you can see the arc. So many people are like, yeah, well, when I look at your rebranding, this is how it always looks. I'm like, I would never rebrand myself, because that version of me got me here. I have to honor her journey. I have to honor her ability to be strong through those things. So I would never take down those posts that like maybe didn't do so well, or the posts where I got naysayers. Like you said, so many people like delete comments and delete that stuff. Like, no, like I am a wide open book. I'm the same person on this podcast as if you came to my house for a barbecue, as if we were at the Grammys. You're never going to see a different version of me. And that's why my clients find the success that they do, because I love that you were able to put it together. So many people walk away from our first conversation like, my brain hurts, I can't even like put it together. But yeah, that's what it is. You're tinkering around in the dark to make something beautiful, and then you put it out there for the world, and then you move on to the next big thing. Oprah didn't just stop at the Oprah Winfrey Show. She's still creating, she's still doing, she's a mega bajillion billionaire, and she's still coming out with new content all the time. So social media is the best place. And honestly, I'm like, you can PM me. I am so open. I'm so just me, that I would love to have more people be this way, not have to like put on, this is what I'm expected to wear because I'm going to this conference, or this is what I'm supposed to say because I'm going to this place. Like, just be you. Just you. That quote from the other day has just been in my head. You were born unique, so why are you trying to die a copy? And I just love that so much because it's so freaking true. And for me, I want us to live in a world where our kids don't need life coaches, where our kids don't need therapists, where our kids are raised already knowing this, and you can't teach what you don't know. So if you're trying to tell your kids that they can be whatever they want to be when they grow up, and you're working a job that you hate, and you're being a mom totally hating your life, and you're not being who you want to be, then you're lying to your kids, because you don't actually believe that you can be whatever you want to be. So how the heck are they supposed to be what they want to be when you can't teach them to do that?
Yeah, no, I have personal experience to that, and this is not a diss on any of my parents. I love my parents, respect them a ton, but I feel like that was, we grew up reading all of the success books. We grew up as entrepreneurs essentially, and we were poured an enormous amount of belief into that we can be whoever we want, we can do whatever we want, and we can accomplish whatever we want. And I'm so grateful for that. It did make it difficult though when I actually went out to go create, because although that's what I'd been told all my life, and I'd read all the success books, I'd done everything on that side, I was modeled poverty. It was poverty in our house. And so when you're modeled that, then you kind of almost think like, oh, I've tried all of it, even though you just like intellectually masturbated about it, right? You just like talked about it. You feel like you actually tried it. And so then when somebody comes and says, no, this is really what you need to do to become successful, you almost discount it like, no, that didn't work for my family and we were still poor. And it's like, well, it didn't work because we didn't do the work the way the work needed to be done.
Action. It's still that action point, because it's the same thing with anybody, really. They say, whatever it is that you wanted to be when you were between 7 and 13 years old is what your purpose like really, really is. And that's where I'll start. And you wouldn't believe the amount of people who can't remember, or they'll tell me and they laugh it off. They're like, I wanted to be a Grammy Award winner. And they're like super shy about it. And I'm like, okay, so I know like 15 booking agents, and I'll just like jump into it, because that's what you wanted to be when you grew up. That's when you were still a risk taker. That was before you started letting the world be your filter. So I want to like rip the worldly filter off of you and remind you, like, I always have this lady behind me that's got all the shimmering out, and then she's physicalized into the human body, and the chakras are there, because that's it. Like, we're all made of star stuff, like Carl Sagan said. Like, there's really no reason why your 7-year-old self can't retrieve the dream, as long as you value the dream, as long as you believe that you have the value for the dream. Then your warrior steps in and provides the resources, and the magician steps in and drops all those random synchronistic things where they're like, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. And then you get to sit there with a crown on your head, literally not caring, or walking around with a cape, literally not caring, could care less, being like, yeah, I'm super mom. So do you want to be super mom? Come and hang out with me, because I will teach you how to be super mom, or super dad, or super grandpa. If you have a kid that's in your life, then I want to teach you how to do what I do, because that's the world that I want my kids to live in, and my grandkids, and my great-great-great-great-great-grandkids. I don't want the world to explode in 2055 because of plastic,
Right. No, for sure. And I just love that. So definitely go check her out on social media. Sounds like you can Google her and find some things there, but social media sounds like it's going to be the place to go. So we're going to enter the next section, and this is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and 1 word to 1 sentence answers. So no long answers. Just we're going to move through this real quick. No, it's hard. I talk way too much as well. So this is really
nothing's too much.
I know it's really an exercise for me to try and limit how much I talk. So so here's the first question, and that is, what is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
That's a hard one. It's a true question. Holding me back, I would say, still just limiting beliefs. Just beliefs that I know are lies that I still haven't figured out how to overcome them yet.
Okay. And what do you believe the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Birthing a baby at home unassisted.
That's awesome. What do you think the greatest success at this point in your life has been?
Birthing a baby at home unassisted.
It's so funny. Sometimes you get the people who have the same answer, but then every once in a while, somebody's answer is
just raising a kid, like raising a family in this day and age that doesn't hate each other, I think would be a big one.
Agreed. What is your secret weapon? If you were to say your habit, mindset, or behavior, the secret weapon that's contributed most to your success?
Shadow alchemy, alchemizing that shadow into the fuel that drives my rocket ship into the dark.
Awesome. Well, call her and ask her what that means. If you haven't read the book, The Alchemist, I did a book review on it a few weeks back. Go back and just search it in my podcast bank. But honestly, that book is phenomenal, and it'll give you a lot of context to that answer. But also, I'm sure she has even more to add than what that book does. So on that note, what books, maybe 2 or 3 books, would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
All right, so No Drama Discipline, for sure. If you have children, please go read that book. No Drama Discipline. Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. Amazing. It's the same thing. Like, you don't belong to the world. You belong to yourself. You don't need to fit in. And then the last one I would suggest, which is like a super random one, it's a kid's book called Fill Your Bucket. And it's all about how we walk around with a little bucket of happiness and taking that from others, but also the idea that you can't feed your children. You can't pour from an empty cup. So a huge thing for me is self-care. We didn't even get into that, but like, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family, you can't take care of your house, you can't even begin this journey. If I hadn't started with meditation, demanding 30 minutes of my children every day, I never could have done this, because I wouldn't have been able to start filtering through these thoughts without taking care of me very first, because I'm all I really have at the end of the day. Yeah, I have everything, but like, that could all be taken away and I would still have just me. And am I good with me when there's nothing else?
Yep, I completely agree. So this is my favorite part of every podcast. Now, I don't know if you listen to any of my podcasts.
Not yet. I just found you last week, and now I'm on it because it's just bam. But I will. I promise I will.
That's okay. So this is going to be a surprise question for you. I actually prefer it if people don't know this question, because I like the kind of more candid thoughts. But I'm okay if people do listen to it and then pre-think about it. A lot of times people will listen to your podcast though, and after a podcast they'll have forgotten whatever they're going to say. So it's good. So this is my question. We're going to pretend that you actually have died, and we're now kind of viewing a dinner table with your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, 6 generations from now.
Okay. They're
sitting around the table and they're discussing what Caryn's legacy is. What do you want them to be saying about your legacy in 6 generations from now?
That she taught us it was okay to be ourselves no matter what everybody else said, and really believed that to the point where she created, all of this wealth, all this helped so many millions and millions of people, just knowing that she could do it. And that means that we can. If I can do it, you can do it. If Oprah can do it, you can do it. It just is. You're no different than Oprah. You're no different than Richard Branson. You're really not.
Agreed completely. Man, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Again, this week, for all those who are interested, this is the last week to get registered for the Strengthen Your World experience happening in Sandy, Utah. And if you want discount tickets to that, go ahead and text me at 385-263-7699. I can hook you up with those. And then also the Wealth and Legacy workshop that I'm putting on November 2nd there in Sandy as well. And text the same number, 385-263-7699, and just text Legacy and Wealth, or Legacy and Wealth workshop is great. We'll get you hooked up on that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being our wonderful guest this week, and that we were able to talk about this whole topic of how to be a good mother and really what mothering is and can be. And that's what we've talked about all week, and we're grateful that you were able to add your input as well. So thanks.
Awesome.
So much.
Thanks so much.
Okay, we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.